show up on set in my super suit and be like, what are we doing? That guy hits that guy. Pow. Oh, yeah.
So this is 10 years of comics.
What?
We're going to check out some comics of our own right now, so we'll dive into some stuff. Let's check them out.
Let's do it.
What a lineup today. We are digging into the brand new Joker trailer. On top of that, we've got a casting update on the Black Widow movie. And then, oh, cats. Oh boy, cats. Wait until you hear how they are making that movie. It is something else. And on top of that, there is breaking news happening right now as we sit at this desk from CinemaCon. It's the Disney panel that's happening right now. So you know what? Things might go off the rails. We might bring up random topics like, hey, maybe this tweet from Eric Davis that says the Fox side is now teasing more Apes, Kingsman, Avatar, Alien, and Maze Runner movies. Not what I expected to hear out of that panel. But before we get into any of that, Haleigh, Jay, welcome to the set.
I'm happy to be back.
How are you guys doing today?
Good to be here with you.
Always. Oh. So warm and loving all the time, Jay.
I try to do my best. I do my best too.
And we got our sinister side out of our system this morning because do you want to tell everybody where we went?
Ooh, we went to this wonderful, cool pop-up exhibit that just is opening tomorrow. It's called, is it I Love Scary Movies?
I love scary movies. I love scary movies, and I keep wanting to call it Scary Stories because of the movie.
I keep wanting to say I like scary movies, which is really underselling it, don't you think? But it's wonderful. It's so cool. There are so many wonderful photo ops that you can take there. They built sort of recreations and fun inventions from Nightmare on Elm Street, The Lost Boys, Beetlejuice, The Shining. Really fun stuff, and I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. A lot of silly photos on Instagram right now, so check out the Collider video feed. We had a lot of fun this morning. All right, digging into this first story here, it is a big one. We got the very first trailer for Joker starring Joaquin Phoenix today. Of course, this movie is directed by Todd Phillips, due in theaters on October 4th. We actually spoke about this a lot yesterday because we got that first poster, and we knew the trailer was coming today, so I made a prediction, Jay made a prediction, and Coy made a prediction. I can't quite remember who predicted what, so I'm going to leave it to you, Jay. Based on what we got in this trailer, who won the game?
Coy.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
Because he said it would be more artistic looking.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we got. You didn't get much of the, you thought we were going hard R.
Yeah. I thought there was going to be more blood.
I thought we were going to teeter that line towards it, and we really didn't get that. So Coy was right. You were going to get more of the artsy look and the feel of it to let you know it's a character study and things like that. So that's what we got out of this. I mean, I liked it. I liked the trailer. I'm like, okay, I'm interested in it because I've always, when they first said they were doing this, I was like, I kind of don't want it because I don't want a Joker origin story. I like the fact that we don't know where this madman came from. We don't know how he got to this point. But seeing what they're kind of doing with it, especially with his mother, I get a Norman Bates psycho type vibe, or even Oswald Cobblepot in Gotham, the way he's with his mother. So I get that.
I'm really digging this so far, and it's like I really like the mystery around the character of the Joker also, but the way they seem to explore it here is, I mean, there is a little bit of a quality that feels very true to life. In particular, just the importance they're placing on what it means to smile right now. I know it's like a little bit of a cheeky tagline, but if you look throughout the movie, you see so many different versions of a smile, from something super sinister to something really genuine, like the footage when he's with his mother. And it just kind of, it goes to show that you can judge something on the surface, and deep down something might be brewing that you just do not expect whatsoever.
Even when he makes himself, when he grabs his mouth and he forces himself to smile, and it's just in that to the point where you see him get jumped on the train and all he can do is laugh. Like, what hits that point? Because he's in the makeup at that point. Like, he's clearly doing a job where he had to be dressed as this clown. And who knows how it goes from there.
It looks like something else. Haleigh, how you feeling about this one?
It's really such an interesting film. I'm fascinated to see what it turns out to be. I feel really good about it. It's a great trailer. The movie looks fantastic, but it doesn't really feel like the Joker to me yet, probably because it is this origin story and because it's a very emotional origin story. And I never think of the Joker as like a sad man, you know? So that's a little hard for me to take, but I'm still in. It doesn't have that Joker feeling yet for me, that flavor, but I'm so intrigued, and the trailer was really good.
Sad on the inside, maybe?
Yeah.
like a sadness that we never really had access to.
But we never saw that.
I never.
Yeah.
We've never seen. I think that's
Which could be the good thing.
It could be. Now, absolutely,
it could be.
It could be. But it's just that I just feel like with a villain like the Joker, one of the greatest villains of all time, I don't want to feel sympathy or empathy for him. And I'm going to with this movie.
There's a mystique and charisma to him that this pierces a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe it's good that makes me kind of uncomfortable, because that means we're getting something different and exciting. But I don't, we'll see when the film comes out ultimately where I fall on that. It's just definitely very jarring.
Yeah, I would probably describe it as jarring and like super unsettling, and almost it's difficult to watch in a way that I can't take my eyes off of it. I feel like this trailer almost felt like a bit of a really upsetting downward spiral, and I want to go on that spiral further.
Can we talk about how small Joaquin Phoenix is in this trailer? Like, he got frail for this character. Like, when there's the one scene where you see his back and you can literally see his spinal column, and then you see the front, you see how small he is. I'm like, okay, is there a reason we wanted him that small for the role? Does that better yet explain him being pushed around and everything and being bullied? Because if we're going to Killing Joke route, the Killing Joke, he was real skinny in that. So if that's the way they're going with it, I was like, okay, this is another interesting take. Little small things I picked up on.
I also, something that's interesting to me, because we're talking about this idea of it being an origin story, which nobody ever wanted for the Joker, but also you can't really trust him. So like, maybe this is we're seeing him tell another one of his fake origin stories, which could be the case. But I also think they're doing unreliable narrator with the Harley Quinn movie, so I don't know if they want to do two back to back.
Yeah.
But it's something I've been thinking about. Like, is this actually his origin story, or are we going to find out that he's just given one of his tales?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually sit through the final feature with one interpretation of what's happening, and there's something in the third act of the film that kind of turns it on its head, kind of in the way that I just described the smile. Like, you have a certain impression based on strictly what you're seeing, but there winds up being something else that you weren't even aware of lurking underneath. And I kind of like that idea. I like that touch on this story. It's going to be interesting to see what they wind up doing because the movie doesn't come out until October. They've got a long way to go. We are going to get more trailers, and I'm curious to see how deep they dig with the story, and also when we get that Red Band trailer.
How many more trailers do you want?
Oh man, that's tough to say until I see whatever the next one is.
Okay.
This one left me wanting more in a place where I felt comfortable getting more without running the risk of spoiling anything. But depending on what that next one is, I might be all right. I'm good.
Yeah, because some movies they'll be like,
not that reaction has ever stopped me from watching more. But
how do you guys feel about the Scorsese feeling of it all? Because he ultimately didn't end up producing it, but it's very clearly inspired by him.
I really dig it. I mean, the King of Comedy, Taxi Driver stuff, it comes through big time, but in a way that felt right to me and not necessarily distracting. And I just love the color palette of this. I mean, you look at this entire trailer, and there's almost like this contradiction between the grayish, washed out skin tones and then these pops of colors places that, I mean, that in and of itself kind of puts you off balance a little. Yeah. And I think that serves what they're trying to do with the character well.
Well, I think the color palettes are great. I know one thing, every Goodwill will be selling all of their suits now thanks to this trailer.
Absolutely.
Because it's a great cosplay. The way it's the look, it's a different look. That's one of the things about this I do love. Every Joker we've ever seen has had their own touch and feel to it. From Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, and now Joaquin Phoenix. Even though Joaquin Phoenix's look like it plays an ode to both Ledger's as well as Romero's. But it's all its own feel. And again, I'm not saying, like, no one ever asked for a Joker origin movie. I'm interested in, like you said, I'm going to go see it as well. I want to see this. I want it to be good. I want it to be dope. I just want to just keep knowing what the feel is going to be and more than just this trailer we got.
I'm right there with you. I'm rooting for this movie, but I'm also rooting for the movie to succeed beyond itself, just because I love the idea of Warner Brothers taking risks with standalone pieces. So if they have a success with this one right out the gate, I think that's going to be a really good sign for super bold creative opportunities going forward. One story thing I wanted to ask you guys based on what we see in the trailer, do you have any new ideas about how they might work Bruce Wayne into this story?
He's probably the kid.
Yeah, because that kid is credited as young Bruce Wayne on IMDb.
Yeah,
not that that's always accurate, but
I would think that little kid he has because he'll interact more with Thomas Wayne. And so Bruce may be that little bitty kid. This might lead up till when Thomas and Martha are murdered or something like that. You know, but either way it goes, that little kid that he gave the smile to, I think that's Bruce.
I'm with that, yeah, and I actually really like your idea of it leading into the murder. I think that would be a nice tie-in that doesn't demand it to be a crossover film.
It would also be a nice way to turn that, I guess, that big screen cliche in a way on its head, because there's been a couple of Batman movies that have opened with that.
With the murder.
Interesting to have one close with it. I kind of like that now.
I do too.
All right, moving on to our next story here, which is a casting story. This is very exciting because we've got an update on Marvel's Black Widow movie. So according to Variety, David Harbour is currently in talks to join the film, as is recent Oscar nominee Rachel Weisz, and she is apparently up for a key role in the movie. Her deal isn't complete, but Variety is claiming that there is strong interest on both sides of that negotiation, so high hope that that pans out. And if the two of them do wind up signing on for the movie, they're obviously going to join Scarlett Johansson and then also Florence Pugh. We have Kate Shortland, who is on board to direct the film. Yeah, I guess just let the Rachel Weisz, David Harbour appreciation section of our show begin. Who wants to jump in first? I assume everybody agrees that this is a great update.
Because I see Haleigh ready to explode, so I'll let him.
Yeah, every time you bring it up, I do a little dance. Oh my God, Rachel Weisz, David Harbour. This is just so sexy. It's like beautiful, wonderful casting, and I can't wait to find out more details of who they're playing because we get nothing. We know nothing.
Yeah.
But it speaks to the quality of the actors that we don't care and we're already like, hell yes.
It's very special when you come across someone like that, when you're like, I don't care what it is, if they're attached, I'm sold.
And it's so, I mean, I hope that they have scenes together, because now that this news came out in the same day, my mind just keeps wanting to put them in scenes together, and I need it to happen.
Understandable. Curious Jay.
Yeah, I'm happy. What do I think?
Yeah.
I'm happy, first and foremost, but what do I think?
Oh, I was going to ask specifically about David Harbour in particular, because he is just at the top of my mind right now, because we have Hellboy coming up, and I'm excited for Hellboy, but I can't.
Is he excited for Hellboy then?
Oh, that's a big question.
That's the question.
I didn't ask
is he
you
excited for it? Because to go from Hellboy, which you can potentially do more films, potentially, to jump right into the MCU. Now, we don't know if he has a major part, if he has that one scene, they just show him and he's done. But could that be those are questions that need to be asked. Does he feel confident about Hellboy?
Right.
Because we were talking about earlier before we started filming, we have not seen much promotion for this. Like, you get a trailer here and there. That's it.
Very minimal buzz.
Very minimal buzz.
I think I'm just, hitting that realistic wall, realizing that, things might not pan out so great for Hellboy, sadly, because I'm such a big fan of the team that's working on that movie. But, it was a big deal for David Harbour. It's not like he's new to the industry by any means, but this was really his first headlining studio film. He's working with a really hot property, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself by saying this without seeing the movie, but I think my hopes and expectations have diminished the closer we got to that movie's release date.
I think that's incredibly fair based on just how the studio has treated it. It doesn't speak to a level of confidence you want in a movie you're excited about. But it doesn't mean that he's like not into Hellboy, although I think you might be right. Because we've seen multiple times now that actors can cross the comic book lines and do two at the same time. Josh Brolin being sort of the benchmark example of that. Yeah. But it is exciting, like, he's a great actor. We all love him from Stranger Things. I was obsessed with the show Manhattan, and he was phenomenal in the first season. He deserves this kind of break, and he's worked so long and so hard for it.
We also forget he was in Suicide Squad. He is in Suicide Squad.
We do forget that.
It's an easy thing to forget.
You see what I'm saying? He is in that movie. He's been in the DCEU, and now he's going to the MCU. Of course, we don't know anything about the movie at all, the Black Widow movie, which I think is so dope given the fact they go into production in June. They start in 2 months.
Know.
Leave it that way. Leave it that way at least until we see Endgame.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't think, and I really do hope that no information leaks before then either. I have a feeling they are very good at keeping that stuff under wraps, but it's just like nowadays you never know.
You do not know. And do you guys think that because that they're finally making this film, that they're sort of poising Black Widow to become a leading figure in the future of the franchise?
It's very difficult to answer that question because and this is a very like simplistic way of looking at life in the MCU post Endgame, but I feel like my mind initially just said old Avengers out, new Avengers in, so I have a very difficult time picturing Black Widow in this other group that I've already assembled, which isn't fair and makes no sense, but it's just where my mind has been at for so long now.
Yeah, that's one of the things. We don't know what the timeline of this movie is, because that's been my biggest thing no matter what. Yeah. I've always said when they said it was a Black Widow film, I'm like, well, I think a solo film for her is way too late if it's an origin film. But if this is a mission post Endgame, then we'll have to wait and see.
And who knows where we're going to land in terms of, I know there's some predictions out there about different dimensions.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine if we have two parallel storylines in the MCU post Endgame?
Dimensions are so hot right now, guys. It is like the #1 storytelling trend across TV and film that I'm fascinated by, with Happy Death Day to You, with Russian Doll. We're seeing a lot of this happening right now, and I'm super into it. Obviously, Spider-Verse. I like that, but so my thing is, I really hope that this is not set in the past, not just because nobody needs that origin story at this point, but because they're putting together such an incredible cast. I don't want them to be one and done.
That's the thing too. Like, could this be a one, you're in the MCU. We see now these A-list stars are gravitating towards the MCU because they know what it can be. You have Angelina Jolie potentially being in the Eternals.
Right.
Granted, that's a movie that'll be like a one and done, but we'll reference it for future, movies. But with this Scarlett Johansson Black Widow movie, you want to be able to see Rachel Weisz more. You want to be able to see David Harbour more. I want to see Florence Pugh more. I want to see where all of this goes.
And I really hope that Rachel Weisz gets to kick some ass.
I'm right there with you.
I pray, because she hasn't really done action since The Mummy.
And I think that's what I think they're setting up for her and Florence Pugh as well as Scarlett Johansson to all be kick-ass spies in some regard.
Sounds good to me.
I believe that's what they're doing.
I'm going to make one really bold, potentially stupid prediction right now and say that Avengers Endgame ends with our 3 leading men basically meeting their end and having to sacrifice themselves in order to save others. And then what results is 2 separate timelines. On one side, we have folks who are dusted, like Spider-Man and Black Panther, and on the other side, we're left with maybe Hawkeye/Ronin, Black Widow, Ant-Man, and that's what winds up dividing the franchise onto 2 tracks. I don't know. That's it. That still seems like a little crazy, and I'm not fully behind it myself.
Because the only reason I'm kind of like, I don't know about it, because they've already announced that a Black Panther sequel is happening.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the point. That could exist on one side.
That could exist on one side.
So my thing, and maybe I could see it because maybe Marvel is changing their gameplay sort of, but like they have built their franchise and their model around incorporating it all into one story. So it would be interesting to me to see them abandon that technique. However, Endgame would be the time to change.
It's the perfect way to do it.
They got to shake it up big time.
Right.
I mean, it is no easy feat to make as many movies as they have over so many years, but it's like, as much as we love it and as much as it's riding high right now, they still have to be thinking about longevity. And if you're going to keep a franchise going for this long, you have to make a bold move and shake it up. I see a very firm finger point happening.
You know what that means. So speaking of talk about Marvel and Disney, Barry Hertz, who is at CinemaCon, just said, new look at Aladdin includes a full performance of Friend in Me, including Will Smith briefly beatboxing. I'm going to be honest, it's a pure nightmare fuel. It just looks unnatural. Said, but the audience liked it though.
Interesting.
The audience liked it.
That's actually a really good segue to our next story, and I wish I could take that opportunity really quickly, but I have to tell you guys that we're taking your live Twitter questions at the end of the show. Hashtag Collider Movie Talk. But now, taking that baton that you just passed me and passing it along to our third story, which it does sound like it's a little bit of nightmare fuel out of it.
Just seeing the genie in blue beatbox, that is terrifying. Just,
I don't know. I try to not judge until I see it with my
I'm just
own
saying,
eyes,
just
but-
seeing that blue genie just beatbox is like he will fight you. Like, that's what I'm scared. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm curious. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. But the nightmare fuel I'm talking about right now are the reports that are circling around this Cats movie. So Tom Hooper, who did the Les Mis big screen adaptation, he's directing a Cats movie. And at CinemaCon, they were part of the presentation, didn't have any footage to show, but they did show behind the scenes footage. And they explained a little bit about what the visuals are going to look like without actually showing the audience what the visuals look like, and the reactions are kind of funny. In Jeff's report, he added a quote that says from Tom Hooper that says, "It's a very timely story about the importance of inclusion and community and forgiveness and redemption." That sounds wonderful. Then some other reports go into how they're going to make the cats look, and apparently they're using a digital fur technology, so they're going to have more realistic fur. And on top of that, the actors here, there's going to be heavy VFX in the movie, and they're basically wearing suits with the little tracking dots all over it, and then the fur technology will be over them. But I still can't believe the words that are coming out of my mouth. But they will all be people size, but in order for these people to act as though they are cats in a real world, they're making oversized sets. So basically picture a kitchen set with a gigantic chair so that, I don't know, Judi Dench looks like she's the size of a cat next to that chair. I can't handle it.
I mean, that's what they did in Eternal Sunshine, right? For that one scene, but we're getting a
very
whole
different
movie.
Situation.
Yes.
Perry is just overloading because it's cats, nothing else.
You would think with my intense love of Dewey that I would be into Cats the musical. I think I've seen it once in band. So when I was in middle school and we would do band class and the teacher didn't feel like teaching, he would just sit us all down and put in a VHS of a Broadway production filmed. Yeah. And I think I watched Cats once that way and was just not into it.
It's not the best musical. It's just straight up not the best musical. And
you don't want to see Taylor Swift as a cat?
I absolutely want to see that. It has nothing to do with the quality of the musical.
This is true.
But I'm alarmed by the fur technology. That sounds terrifying, and I can't wait to see it because it just doesn't sound like the right choice to me.
Idris Elba with fur scares me.
Yeah.
A lot of this sounds fascinating to me in such a backwards way. It's as I read all of these descriptions about what they saw and what they heard, it somehow ups my interest in seeing the movie, but I think I'm just curious to see how big of a disaster it could be.
There's a big WTF factor going on here that I think is drawing a lot of interest, and maybe not the right kind of interest where we're like, wow, this sounds amazing.
I don't know.
It sounds weird.
It just tickles me because I'm sitting there picturing myself just watching Jennifer Hudson be a cat.
I already have a little bit of an obsession watching B-roll when they give out an EPK package because I'm fascinated behind the scenes. I have a feeling I might want to watch the B-roll for this movie more so than the movie itself. And, I want to give Tom Hooper the benefit of the doubt because we were just talking before we even went on air. I know Les Mis gets a lot of crap now, and I don't think it deserves it. I rewatched the movie very recently, and there are just certain sequences that between the camera work and the performances and the singing, it really is an astounding achievement. So I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt and think that this batshit crazy idea, this batshit crazy production could actually churn out a good movie, but I don't know. The two things just don't compute right now.
I will say that I haven't seen Les Mis in a really long time. I'm a huge fan of the musical, and it was really stunning to me to see him bring the barricade scenes to life in a way that I found very moving and powerful. So he has a way of working with sets that I admire, which makes me very curious about this set construction. I'm not maybe as big a fan of his work as you're indicating, but certainly there are techniques in his direction, specifically the way he works with sets in that musical, that I can't wait to see if he can replicate it.
I have some more stuff from CinemaCon. And speaking of cats,
I've got a tweet to read too. Do you want to go first?
Mine's from the live action Lion King.
Are you going to read Jeff's tweets?
No, I don't have Jeff's.
All right, you go first, and then I'll read Jeff's.
Flick the Red says, clip from the live action Lion King just shown. It contained about 90% of the original dialogue.
Wow.
So many people were wondering about that. Were they going to like pretty much remake the movie dialogue line for line, or was it going to go in its own original unique take?
I think maybe it's because I'm so precious about The Lion King. It's my absolute favorite of all the classic Disney animated films. I was just the perfect age. I vividly remember who I saw it with in theaters for the very first time. I will never forget that movie. It was one of my first like major cinematic obsessions. But I've been teetering on that line of whether or not I see them stay so faithful to the source material or veer away from it. Because when I think about some of the other things they brought to screen live action style, I mean, like Cinderella is great, and I think that's so faithful and pure. And some of my least favorite parts of Beauty and the Beast were some of the new things that were added. So I don't know. I think I'm veering towards how it's being described thus far, even though it is essentially a rehash of something I've seen before.
I would hope that there's something new in it, because you point to Cinderella, which is my personal favorite of the remakes so far. It is very faithful to the spirit of the original. However, there's a lot that's actually changed in the film itself. The relationship with the prince is very much blown out. They barely interact in the original film. She doesn't have her iconic songs.
I think I mean more of like the purity.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. The
more of like the purity and the tone.
But in terms of actually keeping the dialogue and making an exact replica of the original film, I'm less interested in that, because why?
Yeah, because that's what a lot of people thought when we saw the little teaser we got with the opening scene with the animals and everything, with the baby Simba and everything. It was like literally the shot for shot of the animated film, and I don't know if I want to see this done the same way. Like, I'm hurt that I have to see Mufasa die again.
Oh, I know.
That's the one thing I can't handle.
How dare you, Disney?
You know, all of us who, as kids, we saw this, we cried. If you didn't cry seeing Mufasa die, you have no soul. And so now to have to watch this, you know, granted, they have an amazing cast ensemble for this. They have an amazing cast. Absolutely. But if you're going with the same dialogue, I feel like you can, like you say, update it a little bit, but don't take too much from it.
Just get the spirit right. That's the most important part. I'm not anti this movie in any way. I'm actually super excited about it. And you know, as we saw in the Jungle Book, Jon Favreau likes to advance technology with his films, and I find that fascinating. But I do hope there's some new element to it, some new soul in it that makes it a worthwhile experience, that doesn't just feel like they painted by numbers, but with CGI.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's fair, and I know this kind of makes me part of the problem, but I think because I'm so precious about that story, it's like, even though you ask like why, what would be the point, and I can't come up with a good answer, it's hard not to want it, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
It does. This is just one of the conversations you always have about remakes in general. Is like, that already exists. So if I want that, I will go
revisit it. Right. Well, I mean, it's okay.
It's okay. As long as it's okay.
I'll help you switch train of thought. I got another bit of news for CinemaCon.
Okay, let's do it.
JoBlo.com is saying they got a behind-the-scenes look at Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, with some finished footage. Now, it looks like a worthwhile sequel to the fans of the first, with Michelle Pfeiffer taking on a role as a bane to Angelina Jolie's Maleficent. Might benefit from not having to live up to a cartoon.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Maleficent, so this isn't at the top of my list.
I just saw it and I was like, I feel like we should. Okay, there we go. Next.
Yeah,
I'm interested. I want to watch Angelina Jolie and Michelle Pfeiffer be fabulous at each other. Absolutely. And somebody on here was describing her gown, which has like skulls and bones sewn into it. That sounds very fun. I don't know. Maleficent was a very bold Disney movie because it's essentially a rape revenge film.
I know.
Yeah.
And that makes me interested in the sequel, because whenever Disney wants to get super weird, like literally self-owning in Dumbo, they made a movie about how bad they are. It's all about this big corporate thing coming in and taking over a smaller enterprise. I like when Disney gets weird. I'm interested.
This little thing that Eric Davis wrote does intrigue me a little bit. Angelina Jolie says the film is about whether or not Maleficent can be a mother to Aurora. She loves her daughter, but there's still darkness within her. I don't know if there is a strong internal battle happening there. I don't know. That might pique my interest if I could separate it from Maleficent, because that is what the movie is, and that would have been fine for them to take a bold swing like that, except the way that they construct the story, it's kind of backwards and like mildly inappropriate. Well, or at least I found it that way. I was like, really, that got a WTF reaction out of me when I hit that scene of the movie.
Fair enough.
All right, before we hit more CinemaCon coverage right now, we're going to roll into our fourth official story of the day, and it's that Captain Marvel has officially passed the $1 billion mark at the global box office. This feat makes it the 7th MCU movie to do so, and according to Variety, in total, the 21 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe have collectively grossed $18.5 billion to date. Wow, that is a lot of money. Does this surprise you at all that Captain Marvel achieved this feat?
Nope. Just because Avengers Endgame, is right around the corner. No surprise at all. I think everybody knew it was going to hit $1 billion. Marvel went all out with the promotion for this. They made sure they got the word out, and they keep pushing it. They'll push Endgame, and they're still pushing Captain Marvel. So they wanted to make sure this keeps making money. Now, how much it'll do after Endgame will speak a lot too, because remember last year, Black Panther kept making money after Infinity War. So that'll be a big thing for it. Either way it goes, it's already crossed that $1 billion mark, so they're good.
Yeah, they're solid.
Yeah, they're going to do well too, because I do think as far as legs at the box office go, Endgame is now going to help this. It's going to keep Captain Marvel in basically the spotlight, and hopefully urge people who are excited to see Endgame to go back and watch Captain Marvel if they haven't done so already. But going way back to the beginning of the year, even though I knew this movie was going to make a lot of money, I most certainly wasn't sold on it crossing the $1 billion mark, especially because I don't believe that Spider-Man Homecoming ever did, and that was a beloved movie with one of the most famous Marvel superheroes there is.
We have so many Spider-Man
And that's what I'm saying. We've had so many reboots.
We do, but I did think that Spider-Man being back, and specifically Spider-Man having his own movie in the MCU, was going to be the thing to nudge it over. And then I also don't believe that Wonder Woman crossed the $1 billion mark. And that movie, that movie was also so beloved and a major event. I think it came in worldwide just under, but I'll confirm that now.
Yeah, because I was like, I thought they did it, and then when Aquaman did it, they were like, okay, DC knows what they're doing with
and
Solo.
not that coming in under $1 billion.
No, it still is bad.
It's
It's not bad at all,
really.
right?
Yeah.
But it's just I thought that that movie had done it because of what it was doing at the box office anyway.
I also thought it fell short, but let's see what Perry's research brings up.
$821 million worldwide. It did fall a little short.
Okay.
Peanuts.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're like, we made $800 million. $200 million, we'll get that back. Don't worry, DVD sales come out soon.
Well, actually, shifting over to the DC film franchise now, we also have another superhero box office update, because some of the projections for Shazam this weekend are pouring in, and it seems like a bunch of them have pegged the number $45 million, which personally to me seems a little bit low, but I'm also, so another site that I looked at had a range of $45 million to $55 million, and I think at this point in time I'm coming right in the middle with about $50 million. And the reason I'm not going on the higher end of it, even though I am like so freaking thrilled about Shazam, I saw it again last night and wow, do I love this movie, but I'm just concerned about all of the competition right now, because I also think Pet Sematary is going to make a good deal of money. I think Dumbo, even though I do see it having a big weekend 2 drop, it's still going to make a decent amount of money. Also, Us is going to make more money, and Captain Marvel is still in the mix. So it's just, as good as Shazam is, and as much as I do think it's going to have legs and make a nice chunk of cash, there's only so much to go around this specific weekend.
Yeah, I wonder did it make like $3 million during that advanced screening weekend, something like that? So yeah, we're looking at it hoping to make 42. To get that opening weekend total at least. Yeah, the fact that Us is still there and Dumbo is there, Captain Marvel as well, because people are going to see Captain Marvel to catch up before Endgame. Yeah. I think it'll hit it. It'll definitely hit like 50 probably.
Yeah, it seems, just hearing 50 for like a DC movie sounds so low to me that my brain wants to reject it. But you make a very good point about there's only so many pieces of the pie to go around, so to speak. And I don't know, though. The buzz is so strong on it. And I think it's going to do well. I think it's absolutely going to beat 45, no doubt in my mind. But I'm maybe leaning towards the higher number.
I wouldn't mind seeing that pan out. If Shazam makes $55 million this weekend and Pet Sematary makes 30, I will be one of the happiest human beings on this planet. But remember when the early projections for Aquaman came in and they were something like $65 million, and everyone's like, uh-oh, it's going to be the lowest opening for the DC film franchise. And then it wound up to be one of the most profitable.
It made like 230, something like that, open weekend.
It's like, the amount it made over the whole course of its run is like ridiculous. Nothing short of phenomenal. Yeah. So when I think about Shazam, the content, the tone, and the spirit of that movie, that's what leads me to see an A, if not A+ cinema scores. Yeah. Really, when I walked out of that second screening last night, and usually I try so hard to always see like the other side of the coin, and usually I can latch on to something that someone else feels, even if it's different from my own opinion. Shazam, it's like, if you don't like Shazam, do you not have a heart? It is just so sweet and charming and fun. That was really just such a delightful film.
It's a very fun film. I love Shazam so much. And this is somebody who has been hesitant on DC films. Like, I loved it. I was in from the opening credits to the end, and I was like, let me see this again. I love this film. I want this film to make more money than what it's going to make, but unfortunately, it's at the worst weekend it could be.
Well, I'm really not convinced that it's going to perform low, even, low by DC standards.
DC,
But especially because we're talking about Aquaman, they've got a lot of goodwill right now coming off of Aquaman. People are like back on the DC train. People who had maybe jumped ship before are feeling what they're doing again. I really think it's going to surprise, and maybe I'm just optimistic. No, that's not true. Everybody knows that's not true. But I do. I think it's going to surprise and do really well.
Haleigh, I want you to be right. Please be right.
Can we do one more from CinemaCon real quick?
Jay.
We didn't talk about this, but during the Disney footage, they showed the extended "I like this one" scene from Endgame. They say it concludes with Captain America saying, "Let's get this son of a bitch."
Language.
Now, the fact that Steve Rogers says that is going to be shows you how serious the tone is. But I wondered, does Tony say language?
I hope so.
He's got to say it.
He's got to. They're back in their brodom. We saw them shaking hands. It's time for some quips.
You know that you trust me? Yeah. So we good.
Well, apparently they're showing the first 17 minutes of Toy Story 4, and our own Jeff Snyder isn't staying for it. I'm leaving. I don't want to see this out of context. Sorry. Jeff, who's going to write it up for the site?
That sounds like Snyder so much.
I really want to know if it's good or not.
Well, there'll be plenty of other people tweeting.
I'm not staying.
Oh, man, so much out of CinemaCon right now, and we'll hopefully have more updates for you tomorrow. I mean, the event is still going to progress. Hopefully more footage from more studios will be shown soon.
Well,
so
I don't want to move on from CinemaCon without addressing the fact that she said more freaking Alien. I feel like we really overshadowed that.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, they said they are now doing, Fox will do more Planet of the Apes movies. More
from the very beginning. I forgot that happened at the beginning of this show. I thought that happened yesterday.
So yeah, they didn't do more. We're getting more Alien movies as long as we don't get another Prometheus or Alien Covenant.
Whatever. We can disagree on things and I'll still be your friend.
Okay.
But I like those movies.
The really odd one that was in the mix there to me was Maze Runner. And
how is that happening?
I'm a big Maze Runner fan too. I love those books, and even though I think the first movie is definitely above and beyond the best of the trilogy, I still don't quite understand how you continue the story, or
I don't know.
I mean, and also like I don't know what the books go beyond after Death Cure either.
I don't either, and I don't why. Like, the YA craze is over, right? Like, everybody who's trying to recreate it keeps bombing at the box office. It's a very confusing choice. I say just funnel that money into more Alien movies would be my advice for the studio heads.
I don't know if I would be opposed to that, but I think even though I do like Prometheus and I kind of liked Covenant, I think I'm with Jay on this, that I want to veer away from that subject matter and get back to Alien and Aliens.
We have to let Ridley Scott at least finish his trilogy and then do whatever you want.
I don't want to see the Michael Fassbender love affair again.
Well, see, then we are just not speaking the same language.
Also, there are 3 other Maze Runner books. There's The Kill Order, The Maze Runner Files, and The Fever Code.
Interesting.
Wow. So,
I only read the first one, Scorch Trials and Death Cure, which were the ones that were adapted to screen.
Yeah, so that shows us how they're going to do it.
I wonder if those are like offshoots or something, maybe characters that I don't know about.
Well, yeah, because Kill Order was 2012, Fever Code 2016, Maze Runner Files 2013.
I'm like 3/4 of the way through my Misery audiobook right now, so maybe I'll have to cue one of those up next. We shall see. I will keep you updated. All right, we have plugs right now before we move into your live Twitter questions. There's still time to send some in, so keep using that hashtag Collider Movie Talk and send them in right now. As you well know, we have a ton of Avengers Endgame coverage on this YouTube channel right now, and we are going to have it all the way through to when the movie is released and then beyond. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. We're going to have so many like speculation videos, you name it. Tomorrow on Collider, you have a brand new episode of Jedi Council coming your way, and oh boy, something is coming to this channel tonight. There's excitement outside for the reveal of this show. It is Collider Ladies Night. It is back. It is now a long-form discussion highlighting wonderful ladies in Hollywood that you need to know about, and our very first subject is Amy Seimetz from Pet Sematary. Check out a clip right now.
Going back to that point in your career, like where was your mind at when you were making shorts?
I accidentally am an actor. Accidentally. And that was because I started as a writer and a filmmaker, and I was cheap, and I also didn't have to explain things to another actor, and I had very weird ideas, and so I was like, I'll just do it.
Check it out, guys, right after Movie Talk, 6 p.m. PT tonight. So excited for this series. Means a lot to me. So a huge thank you to Amy Seimetz for doing that video with us, and I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, we got some Twitter questions. How about a Joker-ish one to start? John Janudis asked, let's assume Joker is a success. What's the next comic book character you'd like to see get this prestige film treatment?
Catwoman. Reavenge that garbage they did with Halle Berry.
Great choice.
Wow.
Catwoman.
I was going to go with Penguin just because I have like a weird obsession with Danny DeVito's Penguin from back when I saw Batman Returns when I was way too young, and I was just
dark that movie was.
I think that was one
brutal.
of the well, it's one of the first times in my life I think I really, this is going to make me sound so sick and twisted, but I really processed like the draw I have to feeling afraid while watching a movie.
Yeah.
And I think that made me a little obsessed with him. So I was going to go that way, but I think I'd prefer Catwoman first.
Yeah, I can't. That's it. That's the one. You said it.
Yeah, you got to redeem that Halle Berry film. Because that was so you were like, oh, Halle Berry's playing Catwoman. Cool, we get a dope take on this and a new twist on this. And then you look at it and you're like, why did this happen? Why did this happen? So I think if Joker's successful, that is the next one you go into.
I will say I also would love, and I have always wanted this so badly, a really well done Harley and Ivy film. I'm obsessed with Harley and Ivy and their friendship and relationship, and I would love to see that treated respectfully on screen.
I'm into that.
I'll
take them all. This is why we want Joker to be a success.
Yeah.
Take big swings with some of these next. All right, here is a question from Jesse Glazer. With New Mutants officially confirmed for a theatrical release according to the Disney CinemaCon panel, do you expect the reshoots to take place in the near future, or will they be scrapped altogether for the cut they currently have? This is a fascinating question after we recently had the discussion about Jeff's piece where he laid out the 5 options, because after we went through them all, I was really rooting for them to just sink the money into the movie and do what they can to make a good movie. I mean, that's not to say what they have now isn't any good, but if they could make it better, I wanted to see them do that. But seeing that visual of where it's placed on their little timeline from CinemaCon, I imagine it's staying in the August zone. Yes. August, maybe September, maybe they'll shift it a couple weeks or something. But if that winds up being the case, I would predict that then they're going to scrap the reshoots and just stick with what they have.
There's no time. I mean, I guess Ridley Scott proved you can do things really fast if you need to when he recast Kevin Spacey's role in like 2 days. But this is a superhero movie. It's a lot more demands and reshooting.
And a horror movie.
Right. Well, see, okay, that's what I was going to say, because wasn't the report when this first happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't that the movie they have wasn't good, it's that there wasn't enough horror in it.
And that was the reason for the reshoots.
On the heels of it, they wanted to lean into the horror vibe, which, cool, but if you already have something that's solid, I'm fine with not having a studio come in and go, we like what you did, but we want to make it in the image of this other film.
This is going to be interesting because so they didn't get a chance to do their reshoots because of Maisie Williams' schedule for Game of Thrones, but they were able to knock out the Dark Phoenix ones with, Sophie Turner's schedule. That's what I heard about test screenings. They wanted it to be more filled with horror. That's when you added in Benicio del Toro and you added all these different people to the cast at last minute. They added them last minute. And if you're just going to get this film, that means Disney's like, it's not on us at the end of the day.
Right.
Disney is literally like, we'll release it. It's not on us. We know who we picked this up. Here you go. You see it, you don't.
I guess. I mean, it's kind of nice to see them embrace it at an event like CinemaCon so soon after the merger was complete. Because, I don't know, just seeing the logo up there, I mean, it might be more along the lines of how you described it, but seeing the logo up there dead smack in the middle of that whole image made me feel like they're like wholeheartedly embracing it.
I think they had to, because if that thing, that logo, that timestamp they had, the slate, had all those movies and didn't have New Mutants up there, the level of articles that would come out from every trade of, is New Mutants officially scrapped? That would automatically be headlines. That
wouldn't have been out of the realm of possibility in my mind too, because it's like, I think that if that were the case, we would be saying like, oh, it's going to a streaming service.
Yeah.
Likely not Disney Plus and probably Hulu, but that's basically the tune I would have been singing had it not been on that graphic.
That, so
now that I think, I don't know, I was really convinced for a minute that it was going to Hulu, but now I feel like that's foolish, because Disney has a pre-packaged superhero movie that they can send to theaters and make money with. Like, why would they put it on streaming?
And essentially wipe their hands clean of it once it comes out. It's not going to be a reflection on Disney the brand, because we all know it was a Fox movie. So, from that perspective, I guess they probably should do what they're doing.
Oh, it was Antonio Banderas, not Benicio del Toro. I'm sorry about that. Someone said that in the chat. But I don't think any hype is going to go behind this, any mainstream push behind this. It's just going to be a couple of trailers. That's it. This is when it comes out.
I'm curious, because they can position this and Dark Phoenix as sort of the end of an era type thing, like the end of this realm of X-Men. If they push it that way, that could build up some intrigue and buzz around it, or they might just dump it, like you said. It might be a Hellboy situation.
Like, here you go.
Oh no. Well, August isn't all that far away, so I would assume we would see something new from New Mutants at some point soon. We will wait and see.
It'll be Comic-Con. It'll be right before it in July.
Maybe. Because they didn't do anything at WonderCon, did they?
Nope. Not for New Mutants.
Okay. I'm curious to see what they wind up rolling out at San Diego Comic-Con this year, especially because they didn't have a presence last year. So I'm just
And Star Wars will be handled by Celebration, so I'm sure they'll lean into...
They'll put the focus back on the MCU. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe that's the point where we could seriously start talking about maybe mutant announcements, too. So who knows? We will be here to cover it all. As always, Jay and Haleigh, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being our CinemaCon Twitter reporter.
No problem. I had to keep sitting there. Everybody probably was wondering, like, why is Jay looking down? Every time something dropped, I had to make sure I got it out to
It just figures. Like, why doesn't Disney know that our show is right now?
Yeah, rude.
Just have the panel before so we can be all prepped and ready to go. But thank you for doing all of that. Adam in the booth, thank you, as always, for your hard work. Guys, please like and share this episode of Movie Talk, and also tell everybody you know about us in podcast form as well. It's a great listen on the road, on the run, wherever you want to go. Thank you guys for watching the show. We will see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. PT Live, for a brand new episode.